So I really liked the colour scheme with the red in the night sky because I think it really added to the tense atmosphere of the plot and like enticed you and made you want to carry on watching. And I thought the use of flashbacks also added a depth and a more mysterious element and drew you in.
It also takes quite a modern approach to film, in the sense that you have the multiracial actors, and it shows no disparity between the two. They both seem very equal in how they're portrayed. Two different personalities, but both portrayed equally as importantly in the role. You have got the contrast of the skin colour, but it's a contrast that isn't even glanced upon, which is quite a modern look at film taking.
All thrillers contain mystery, and this has been executed well in the opening. By shooting on a wide aperture, they create a very shallow depth of field in the nighttime scenes, and this ties back to the theme of mystery by masking the environment in which the character is walking through. This intrigues the audience to find out where the character is, in fact. This choice of depth of field suggests that the character is lost and is unsure in what lies ahead for them, as all the focus has been locked into their face. This is supported and contrasted by the flashback daytime scenes. The daytime scenes were shot in a narrower aperture, creating a deep depth of field. This suggests that in the past the character knew what was happening in the present moment, and they were happy, but now they are lost.
I really liked the use of handheld camera shots because it made what you were seeing more personal, as it was more through somebody's eyes than a kind of set up shot.
The key outstanding part of this intro to the thriller was the way suspense was built up but also encouraged from the audience. The audience was made to feel nervous through the suspense of the film. I think in one way it was done was at the beginning, when it was less tense, less suspenseful. There were wider camera angles. Length that each shot was actually on was lengthier, longer periods of time, whereas as suspense built up, the camera switched angle more often. It went from each shot was a few seconds to less than a second between changing camera angles.
I liked the moment when Sonia was calling Tom and it flashed back to Tom's face, because it made me question their relationship, and then it was clear that Tom was the guy in the flashback.
I liked how the memories sort of like blended into it so seamlessly, and how there was quite a strong sense of emotion conveyed by those memories and her reaction to them. I thought that was really successful. And I liked
the red flashback and her hand slamming down on the table I found particularly dramatic and exciting, because it was a change in the pace, and also I liked the red because red is associated with danger.
The film portrays moral ambiguity very well, in the sense that the concept of the blackout provides, there's no omniscience for the viewer. You have no clue what's happened between that coffee and when she is on the phone. There's no answer. There's a lot of violent imagery of the knife, the slashing, the colour red. That colour correction is very useful because it's crude and it's blatant. It provides very obvious connotations to the piece, which I liked a lot, because it didn't make it overly complex or pretentious. It kept it down to earth as a piece, so it made it almost more real, so I could relate to it quite a bit more.
I think the use of the red lighting effect at the end was also really effective, as it further created this sense of tension, as red's typically viewed as quite a scary colour.
In the beginning and end scenes of the opening, a hazing, oversaturated red light has been used to mask the villain. This firstly plays into colour connotations, as red signifies danger, and secondly, by having this red light be so oversaturated, this drowns out all the midtones of the shot, so that what you can see from identity-wise is just the whites and the blacks. This conceals the identity of the villain further, leaving the audience to wonder, is this villain the boy she was drinking with, or is this going to be a villain introduced at a later date?
From the first moment it created tension, One of the ways in which it did this was through music. I think it helped create a really tense atmosphere that's necessary in a thriller to keep the audience on the edge of their seats.
The use of music as well instead of dialogue built up the tension because nothing was really being revealed. It was only showing snapshots, so you want to keep on watching to get the full picture.
Lack of dialogue is much more suspenseful. The audience know less, and the less the audience know about the actual characters and what is really going on makes them much more nervous. It's very suspenseful.
The choice to use a minimal amount of audio also supports the theme of mystery. The more dialogue the characters give, the more the audience learn about them, and this starts to provide more clarity for the scene. But they have chosen to not include the dialogue so that the audience remains hidden away from what the characters are truly like.
The sound, I think, was one of the best parts. The way that sound was used at the start, the background noises, like the cars on the road, were very overpowered, almost drowned out by the actual soundtrack and the music when suspense was less important. But then as suspense built up, background noises became exaggerated. The putting down of the cup and you could hear the clinking of china together was, louder than natural, and that immediately cut to a scene of keys being put in the door, which were also, the jingling of the keys was exaggerated.
I think sound effects were also really effective, such as the turning of the key or the phone call, as it made it seem more realistic, which really encapsulated the audience as they feel more involved in the action.
And at some points, the music was cut altogether. Lack of music is very suspenseful when there's absolutely no sound apart from just the movement of the character on screen.
I really liked the way that I thought the music was really, really good at building the tension in the film, and I thought that the scenes where she was walking around were very relatable, sort of concerning like teenage ennui and like listlessness, but also sort of like feeling like a lot of like seemingly quite dramatic feelings, but then at the same time like not feeling anything, and that kind of like weird contradiction. I think that was kind of like shown quite well because it was really dramatic, but at the same time nothing was happening. And it's that ennui I think is like present in a lot of 21st century like teenagers.
I also liked it because it was mysterious, and they did this when Sonia was looking up at the sign, and it made me question what significance it had.
And I like the way she was wearing the same ring in the sort of date and when she was remembering it. That sort of small detail was like one tiny similarity that kind of just showed how different everything else was and how much everything had changed.
I like the voicemail beep right at the end because it was a dramatic ending to the whole thing rather than it just trailing off.